Ladies and gentlemen, twice did we talk about, as we started, that we would course correct as we progress discussing the content at this summit, right? So the upcoming panel discussion, the beauty of it is it's also a crash course. Now, why do I say that? You get your answers when you actually listen to the insights that are coming up, that are warming up. Now, this would be data management 2.0 for resilient future ready strategy, right? Okay, so this session will focus on creating a better understanding on how the dynamics of data can really play that key role, that elementary role in bringing the commercial success and apply actionable advice while building a strategy that's exactly right for your businesses. So again, a critical discussion that's coming up, and allow me to welcome the pumped up panel members. Let's welcome Dr. Aloknath Dey, the Corporate Vice President and Chief Technology Officer from Samsung R&D India. With that, we'll also be welcoming Ashish Ranjan, the Chief Digital Officer from National Engineering Industries. And we are happy to be greeting you, Vineet Jaiswal, the Group Chief Digital Officer from JSW Group. Well, up next, we'd also have with us Srinivasan Narayanan, the Vice President, Cloud and Data Center Group from Hitachi Systems Micro Clinic. We're so glad to have you, Mr. Narayanan. And with that, let's also welcome Vinay Kumar Parath, the Director, Sales, NetApp India. And well, yes, the strings of this important course come conversation would be held together by Ankush Gadi, the Director, Data Management CRISIL. So Ankush, we are all set to give away the responsibility to you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you and your family are safe and in good health. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to moderate one of this app session on data management 2.0 for resilient future ready strategy with expert set of panels. Very happy to be here. Thank you once again. While 2020 has been an unprecedented year in many ways, what it did was to accelerate the entire technology and digital agenda in a big way. With the evolving business needs and the landscape, I think the data analytical leaders, the CDOs, the CTOs have a big task in hand to build a data strategy that is right for your organization. I'm sure each one of you had to make a lot of decisions, and we'll speak about it more in terms of what kind of decisions you have to make. But before we get into all this, let's just get your opening remarks on how does your data analytics practice been run in your respective organization or industry, and how does data analytics strategy looks like. With this, let me please first invite Mr. Aloknath Dey to share his opening comments.
Yeah, I'm sure many of the people, thank you very much, and they would be talking about the IT infra in the organization. But let me take one thing that we are doing for our end customers. And as you know, Samsung builds a lot of products on digital appliances, whether it is mobile devices, smartphones, and wearables, TVs, and home appliances. Now, they all need to be connected. And we have this Smart Things platform that we have built, in which 150 million plus devices are today connected. And as we talk about data management 2.0, we have migrated from these single unitary devices to bring an overall experience in this multi-device scenarios. So that's what I'll talk a little bit maybe subsequently.
Thank you so much for that. Can I now invite Ashish to please share his opening comments, please?
Great, thank you, Ankush. If I want to share my opinion, see, data analytics has been thriving in most of the organizations as the MIS department for long. And what we can do today is to use the new technology and explore new insights by tapping into the existing source of data that exists today in the organization. So that is what is a key element for me. And with the changing scenario over 2020 and 2021, I feel that there has been a lot of felt need to tap into the existing data sources of the organization, and also wherever there was a pen paper model used, to do away with it. And I'm coming from a background of metal mining and manufacturing, and hence this perspective. So the main point that I would like to emphasize here as well would be that how can sustainable analytics be possible and what is good data going forward in the session. But let's dive into it a little more deeper. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. Very relevant. Vineet, can I please have your opening comments, please?
Yeah, so for me, data is very, very important, regardless of whatever we do on our work, right? So there are three important things my focus areas are, right? Process improvement, people side, and the technology side. All of them actually need data. So having the right data strategy helps my organization a lot. So data is very, very critical for any kind of success going forward.
Thank you, Vineet. Mr. Srinivas, can I have your comments as well, please?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting for this forum. It is exciting to see, being part of this panel, experienced CIOs and being a partner for many OEMs. We are part of a Hitachi group, and we are a system integration company, basically. So we work with multiples of OEMs and software partners, especially the person who is in the panel today, Mr. Vinay. We work very closely. There are lots of software we have integrated with them, and we help customers build the data platform. Basically, we are a provider of infrastructure, whether it is on premises or multi-cloud. So I would be able to add a little bit value on that front going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Vinay, can I have your opening remarks as well?
Thanks, Ankush, and I'm really excited to be part of this panel. As you all know, NetApp is a data management, software-centric data management company which provides solutions to manage data both on-prem and on the cloud. So my perspective, what I'm going to share today will be more from a perspective point of what our customers are currently doing with regards to data analytics, right? And as you rightly said, the year 2020 has been a year of unprecedented challenges. But I strongly believe it. At the same time, it also opened up a lot of opportunities for technology to leverage technology in multiple fronts, right? It was adopted in multiple sectors like retail, commerce, manufacturing, and was also adopted to monitor the safety of employees, work from home, improve customer experience. So the enterprises went through the different digital touch points, and 2022 has actually only increased this leveraging technology in newer areas like industrial edge, hybrid cloud. But definitely the focus around data and analytics is only going to increase. So we have a lot of customers who have already focusing on data analytics as a practice, and at the same time there is the other half of the segment which is currently evaluating data analytics as a practice very seriously and are looking at what kind of use cases it can solve. The complexity, the skill set required, the effectiveness, end-to-end enterprise solutions around, how it can help them, solve data quality problems, monitoring that, governance, quality, etc. Right? And those who have implemented, they've definitely they have leveraged data insights to, in terms of better decision making, forecasting. They've been able to reduce and resolve bottlenecks with an architecture that is more of insight and insight driven, right, and outcome based. So I would say so there is definitely a lot of customers who have adopted data analytics, and they have definitely seen value out of it. And people who are on the journey, I'm sure they will very soon realize that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. I think very relevant comments coming from the panel. We'll move to the actual now core of the segment, where we will speak about how data analytics leaders and practitioners actually come up with a cloud strategy and data strategy. With this, I'll have my first set of questions ready, and I'll request Aloknath Dey to please share his opening comments. My question to you would be first is, how do you create an effective cloud data management strategy? I think we've heard about DaaS, which is data as a service to support the BI analytics in the company. But what goes behind that, and what does a cloud data management strategy look like?
So thank you very much. And we are talking today about data management 2.0 and data as a service. So how is it different from the previous version? I can just highlight three things. First of all, from the R&D standpoint, if I take one, Earlier people used to have more of the code, less of the data. With AI coming, code and data became like half. And now they are all getting still a little bit mixed up in the monolithic structure. So this data management 2.0 is all about separations of data plane, control plane, and you can see that in 5G's architecture. You can see that in IoT context, that we separate it out between the data and code, and data is given as a data as a service, as we are calling. So that's number one. Number two, when we work, we see devices, and devices have a lot of processing power, storage. Many things on device keeps it private, makes it lower latency because you don't have to send it to the cloud. And you have edge processing coming, and then you have the cloud. So it's a three-tiered structure between device, edge, and the cloud. And how do you architect that? What data goes at which layer? This is something in particular to our context of multi-device smart things. It is very, very meaningful. Now, the third point I wanted to highlight is when we handle data, we in the cloud, which is mostly handling, there are things that you need to structure. How do you produce the sensors, different sensors in IoT context that are there? How do you bring them up? What is the communication protocol? For example, MQTT, HTTP, what do you take? How do you ingest that data? And the stream processing that you do, some kind of storage, how do you present? So each of these layers and their API has to be quite cleaner. And people are using either Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud, or Amazon, and many others that are coming up. And in each of these contexts, you see there is an events hub. For example, if I take Azure as an example, you have an events hub, you have a stream analytics, you have a Cosmos DB, and then some kind of power business analytics intelligence modules. So people are building these kinds of with the help of elements, and you can crisscross a little bit tools from others. These software tools that we build is very, very vital. I think data management and DaaS as a service, these tools, what are these tools and how do they interoperate? And because we are also moving from single cloud, in some of the cases, multi-cloud, because some of these devices of our partners may be in another cloud, and I have Samsung's cloud, but I want to expand my IoT services across, and therefore it has to be a multi-cloud, and there are challenges associated with that. So this whole journey is part of the scope, and we are structuring it neatly for those devices for smart things, as well as at the enterprise level for our own IT solutions. And let me end by saying that when you do that, some datas are functional. You want to drive an Uber Maps and you need that map, right? Without that, you cannot even provide the functions, right? So certain functions would require certain data. So that's a must data. Then we collect certain data, which is personalization. If I have this, I don't share with other don't mix it up at the back end, but I can help you getting personalized. You love this music, you love that, you like in this language to speak. That's a personalization data. Third thing, you don't tell me, but I can help you in the recommendations. And I get to know that you do, whenever you get out of home, you do every time these three things. And I can suggest to you, can you do a micro functions? And it can be done automatically in that context. So up to this is your personal data and I'm doing it. And at the end of it, I take a statistical data, which I aggregate, and I can tell you something more as a generic how others are doing. I think this is how the broad landscape is looking like for us in Samsung and similar companies. Thank you.
Very interesting, very, very interesting. Thank you for that, sharing that. Ashish, how does this goes in your organization and what's been your experience around this?
So for us, our cloud strategy and specifically data strategy is based on use cases typically, Ankush. And the way we are taking it ahead is based on relevant use cases. So today, for example, we are on a connected factory setup. One of our manufacturing plants has completely moved on to a connected factory setup. Now, by which means we have the operational data as well. And we want to now move on to the next step, which is the analytics. And doing this requires us to have this edge setup and the cloud setup and the data. Hence, the data strategy is now being carved out. And being a core organization, say a manufacturing setup, typically, the core systems were those of ERP, were those of product data management, PLM, and all. So we had these systems residing. Ultimately, data has to reside somewhere, and that is what will drive the strategy. So now, as the use cases are forcing us to take that step, we are devising our strategy. So our strategy is limited, and we take the steps based on the use cases that we are developing.
Sure, Ashish, understand. Can I have Vineet comment on these points as well?
Yeah. So if you ask me my expectation on a data strategy, right? First thing, being from a manufacturing plant, first thing which I look is this data should have a single source of truth, right? Because in most of the manufacturing companies in across the world, right, still goes through a logbook and those things. So first thing is first get them onto some kind of a digital platform. Then there are decisions which we need to take on how to use that data. So I think Alok also touched upon it. Either you get the processing power to the data, or you need to get the data to the place where you want to process it. It's a huge and it's a very important strategic decision somebody has to take, right? So, and it depends on use case to use case. If you can't even lose a microsecond on a decision making, always get the processing to the edge. That's the way I'll do it. Second, so there are three stages that data can be consumed for me, right? On looking at the data. One is at the edge where we get the processing to the data. Second is the fog, where you can't move everything to the cloud, right? Or rather even to the cloud, even your private cloud. And it makes sense to process the data at the fog level. And third can be on the cloud. When I say cloud, it can be either a private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. It all depends on how you're going to consume. But at the end of it, one should understand few important things while putting their data strategy. Not everything should be pushed to a data lake. I think one of the things which I have been seeing in industry from my past experience is that a general mindset is, okay, push everything to data lake and say that, right? It needs to have a very, very specific and thought through call. Always, and data lake should be used. I will tell you in one of the things which I've seen in past also, people believe data lake is for big data. It's all about data lake is about the data where you need the data in the nascent format. That's the most important thing which I believe in, right? So it should not be done with ETL, rather ELT. Another thing which I always prefer and think about is on the cloud strategy for this data, whether it should be on the private cloud, hybrid cloud, or those calls also needs to be taken care very, very specifically while putting a data strategy around. Because sometimes while data is classified or something important, you will keep it in the private mode. But if in case that is needed, even if the system goes offline. So what is the strategy behind that? It all need to be decided while you are putting your strategy together on the data set.
Excellent, Vinny. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think this is, a great way to, great segue into our next set of questions, on cloud strategy and data strategy. So in a multi-cloud environment, when data is spread across different silos, what is the best way to optimize your data management in terms of cost, in terms of recovery, etc.? Let's get some thoughts from the speakers on this segment, and I'll request if Mr. Vinay can share his perspective on this.
Yeah. So thanks, Ankush. And I think very valid concerns from the panelists around, what should we do? What data should we store where, right? And how do we, ensure there is a seamless movement from edge to the core to the cloud? So we understand our customers, will have stored data, anywhere and everywhere, right? And in all forms. possible. And also, we also realize, when we talk to our customers, we also realize that, their data is getting added to their public cloud, private cloud, or even to their on-prem infrastructure every minute. And at the same time, they are also, they are so dependent on it for them to strive and thrive in their business, right? Data is such a critical asset for them. But the biggest challenge for them is to manage that, track that, and really, get the real value out of that data. So, we as a service provider or as a partner to our customers, we envisaged this problem, almost 24 months back, and and we actually transformed our entire products and solutions that could align to one of the, I'm saying, the two of the biggest transitions which is happening around the globe, which is around data and cloud. So we've developed a very software-centric data architecture, which will actually help customers to eliminate this siloed data management, and provides a framework which can link your data, link the data from the edge to the core to the cloud with efficient data management features. And this architecture is called as the data fabric architecture, which is very unique to us, and has a very it gives you an integrated management from on-prem to the cloud. And the whole idea of envisioning this architecture was, how do we give customers freedom, or how do we give customers the choice of selecting the cloud service provider of their choice, right? Or how do we give them the flexibility of consuming the cloud in the way they want? They should not feel they've got vendor locked in, or become a refuge to a specific cloud service provider, right? So these are some of the things which we have envisioned, and this is how we are helping solving problems for customers who are actually wanting to have either a hybrid cloud architecture or a multi-cloud architecture.
Great, Vinay. Very interesting. I know Mr. Srinivas, managing internal stakeholders is as critical as managing customers. They are your customers in every way. Can I have your comments on how do we manage your cloud strategy with them?
So basically, the need for any enterprise or any organization is data. And when currently the data is driving the entire business, and understanding of customer behavior or consumer behavior is very important. Now, in the last 2 years, the consumers are invisible. There used to be times people meet and try to understand their sentiments, everything. Now the sentiments cannot be extracted from them directly. So the consumer behavior or the thinking are captured as data from various applications and various consumer behaviors in the social media, or the way they consume things, they buy things, patterns, all that. So all this data, when it is captured to an infrastructure, the data captured are very important, and there has to be clean, and the quality has to be maintained for reworking all the data on the analytics front. Before doing that, the infrastructure which is holding, whether it is the private cloud, on-prem infrastructure, or the multi-cloud, where data can be spread across, so that the availability of data can be maintained. One, the native tools of the provider, the cloud provider, or the storage providers like NetApp or Hitachi, XYZ, any provider who's building the platform, they have to build simple tools which is mature. We've been working with the NetApp, for a very long time, more than 15 years. The function or the major impact or very, very important features of NetApp storage is data management from the beginning. For the last 15 years, we are working with them. And we have ensured that we have not even lost even single drop of data for the last 15 years. I would say proudly that wherever we have done this implementation of simple data management solutions we called some time back. Now we are saying big data, X, Y is all that coining. But for so many years, for more than 25 years, data has been the center of our the discussion or topic. So how are we going to protect it? How are we going to secure the data, which is what we are working towards? We are aligning with partners who provide the applications to maintain or protect those data. And that is our strategy, what we are doing internally to help our customers get into their data analytics strategy. I have more to add as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Very, very interesting comments. Thank you for that. Uh, my next question, I think I'll request Mr. Alok Nande to comment, is on essentially data and analytics and its function and the role, that how it can support the digitization journey and the business challenges. What's your perspective on this, please?
Yeah, just taking your question, just on the previous topic, I had one additional point to make is that,
Sure.
as in the multi-cloud environment, as the data has to move also, so therefore, there is a trend of extensive use of metadata, because you can use that metadata to perform on-the-fly data transfers between clouds. So that's also one trend. Now, coming back to your question, effectively, there are three kinds of dashboards that people are looking into. One is an executive management business intelligence analytics, whereby decision making for business for moving forward, that is one set of data. So obviously data inside is still that in the lake, but what you take up and what is your decision making points, based on that you have a dashboard for executives. And then as you build things, you want to make sure your products that you are building, whichever, is enriched. And therefore you need like, for example, if I build a voice assistant, there are speech ASR and NLU and lots of AI related data that you have. How do I get a feedback into that so that I can improve this system to be able to design? And the third window is to the user, because I need to have a public presentations of how this system is working against others, and the consumer's VOC that comes. Can I solve it? They should be able to track, as well as they should be able to see the whole quality of the products and the feedbacks from member communities. So I think these three buckets are very, very vital. And then, do you have a small data to handle, a big data to handle? Depending on situations, you can do that. It's not necessary that you have to have a big data in all the places. But I would end up by saying the user analytics, the developer analytics, and the business intelligence analytics, these three things are very, very vital.
Thank you, Alok Nath. Vinay, your comments on this entire data analytics perspective and how it helps solve business problems. You're on mute, Vinay.
Yeah. So Ankush, I will give you a view, from what I'm hearing from customers and what what the analyst views are on this, right? I think the most important thing is understanding of an organization, how important is, how the importance of information or data being a critical asset, right? And which is going to help in data-driven decisions to improve their productivity, profitability, growth, etc. is going to be the most key thing. Organizations who have realized this and who have embarked on this journey have already transformed themselves and have adopted to the new ways of doing business, right? And organizations who have resisted this change either have been left behind or shut shop. For example, the classic example is about Fry's, right, which was my favorite electronic shop whenever I visited the US, but it shut shop in 2021 February. Most enterprises have realized, who have embarked on this digitization journey, that data and analytics have to be their top priority. And that is going to help them, be the key accelerant in their journey towards transformation and digitization. And if you also would have read the latest Gartner report, by 2022, 90% of the organizations are going to classify data as a critical asset and analytics as a critical competency, right? So in this digital era, if enterprises have to compete or have to operate, they need to have a quick, they need to be agile, nimble, and have to be a quick, make quick decision making. And it's now more of a boardroom discussions whenever I talk to customers, right? also, if you look at from a worldwide perspective, some of the leading industries or leading organizations across industries, they're actually wielding data analytics as their corporate competitiveness or operational accelerant. According to me, every enterprise should have data analytics as their centerpiece for support, investment, and focus.
Completely agree, Vinay, on those points. Completely agree. I think I read that report. I think one of the other stat that came out very startlingly was 91% of the organizations are engaged in some form of digitization. But interestingly, only 40% of them have made any significant progress last year. The same report that you were referring to of Gartner. So yeah, very interesting insights from those. I'll now turn into Ashish to share his comments on data analytics and how it can help.
Sure, thank you. And really, I would say what Vinay said is what I would also repeat to start with. So in my view as well, data and analytics is going to be a core and critical function going forward in this digitization journey. And as I see it, the data analytics is the outcome of much of the projects that we do under the digital guard. And why is it important is because that it will lead to business decision making, or it will be solving a certain key business outcome, either on the cost side or revenue, or leading to a new business model, analyzing customers, and so on, depending on which industry segment you are in. So many organizations have already realized the need. The report says it all, right? And organizations are at various stages of maturity. So I would just like to cite an example here of one of the large metal companies. So when I was a consultant, it was my client. And today that metal company has set up an analytics COE, and it drives the analytics through the COE using a pull model. And the capability works across functions. It takes the business user's pain points and solves it and gives them back through advanced analytics. So that is what is one of it. And today in our current organization as well, we are in the initial phase of setting up of the analytics capability in the organization. And we are running multiple use cases to show and tell, because unless until we believe it's a very important aspect. So hence the show and tell part. And also we have prepared an analytics placemat, which describes the analytical use cases function by function. So supply chain analytics, manufacturing, operations, sales, finance, and so on. We have prepared this placemat, and we have use cases across descriptive, predictive, and hence we are now prioritizing what to do. We have already done descriptive analytics to a great extent in the organization. We have made it available on Fiori, on the HANA architecture. And now we are working on the advanced analytics side. So solving the use cases based on the real data, shop floor data, and real-time data is what we are doing right now.
Interesting, Ashish. Interesting. I think let's move on to another segment now. I think great thoughts here. I think the another segment that I want to get your comments was, I think it can be a separate session altogether, was related to the compliance and the governance aspect of data. And I want to just get some views from the panelists on how do you balance essentially the adherence to compliance and better governance and business outcomes in your organization. So maybe I'll first invite Vinny to share his comments on that, and followed by Mr. Srinivas, who can share his perspective.
Compliance is a very, very important thing, right? Because we have data of our customers, our suppliers, everyone, right? Our employees, right? So having the right data strategy in terms of how the data is accessed, who are the people who are going to preview the data and consume the data. So putting the right strategy in terms of access, or both authentication as well as authorization, is a very, very important aspect of it. And it will depend on how, and I think first thing what we have to do is whatever we do is do with a growth mindset. When I say growth mindset, always think about that we not think everything will be perfect first time, but security is the important aspect of that. Regardless of having a perfect world, how exactly you're going to consume and get some benefits out of it. I will take example like in manufacturing. There are times where we have the data of our a different part of the plants, right? And the data can be consumed by those plant people, but also can be consumed across the company. But if in case that data get lost, right, that data is of so much of value. So putting a good compliance mechanism, the governance mechanism, how and when exactly the data will be accessed and who will access that is a very, very critical aspect of it. So regardless, I have been in manufacturing, metal and mine space currently, but previously have my experience around different spaces, right? Regardless of which company we are in, this compliance governance is a key aspect for how exactly you consume the data. I think that's the way I will summarize that.
Sure, thank you.
So from my side, see, our customers are from various verticals. Basically, lots of customers are from the BFSI segment, and healthcare segments are also there. So they have the SOX and HIPAA compliance, compliance requirements are listed already. So we work with them closely on understanding how do they want to operate, because generally they have their own direct lines, or they might be supporting another organization. So invariably, we build the infrastructure. We design the infrastructure in such a way that their compliances are met for their own consumers or the customers. So when we are designing the infrastructure, we ensure that the data is available and data is protected with various tools and this thing. And then we have tools to protect the unwanted people getting into the data leakage prevention. All that we have data leakage prevention. All the tools available generally for many years. And sign-on methods. There are many tools we integrate. We spend time and spend time with our customers to understand what kind of compliance and protection required, and then we suggest the tools integrating with the existing or the cloud platform. See that generally we do a deep study with our customers as an integrator.
Sure, thank you. I have my one eye on the time, but I think I'll still have one more question shoot into each of the panelists to get their final comments at least, or quick comments on my last topic, which is essentially on innovation and automation. I don't think any company can survive without continuous innovation and automation in the data analytics space. So I think I would want each one of you to quickly share a few lines on how do you drive innovation and automation there, and is there any use of ML and AI as a differentiation in your industry, is something that I would want each of the panelists to quickly share their views on. Let's start with Mr. Aloknath Dey, and then we'll go quickly through each one of you.
Yeah, in the IoT context that I mentioned, and the many devices that we are connecting, I think one of the important thing is what we call as if this, then that. Like then that is the automation part, right? I want to, on a conditions, I want to turn off something, turn on something. So that's the automation part of it we can do. And I can make it and, with the bigger conditions. But if this can bring it a lot of intelligence, and that's where AI works. And it can be a very deep algorithm to do it, or it can be a simple things as a condition. Just to give you a very simple example that we can relate. If you have an wake up, algorithms, are you sleeping, not sleeping, and some sophisticated algorithm that tells that you have woken up, I can then connect to a geyser to be turned on or a coffee machine to be turned on. But this can be a quite sophisticated AI ML algorithm. So that is how we can do it. And we can combine many of them to make it fantastic for factory, for agriculture, for many other applications that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Ashish, your comments on this, please.
Sure, thank you. See, I take it as, say, a couple of points here under innovation and automation. And for me, innovation would be if we can have more insights from the same data and give the users a perspective of the data as an information that they have not seen before. And for this to happen, probably we will have to wear the user's hat and then come up with the innovative solutions. That is one part. And the second part is around using the technology and data available today to come up with new revenue models. And typically, one of this is as a service model. And probably with all the strategies that we discussed today, every business is probably trying to move into a as a service model somewhere or the other. The second aspect of automation, as I see it, is that analytics, we should use analytics for automating the decision making in the organization and wherever possible. So it could be operational, tactical, and also to a certain extent at the strategic level. So that is where the real essence of analytics would be. And a minor example of how the AI/ML can be used to differentiate it is that we are currently working on a surface inspection model for one of the pieces that we have. And we had initially deployed a RGB segmentation model, which was a non-ML based model. We had 80% accuracy with that. Now we want to move to a machine learning based model so that we can drive up the accuracy. So if we can plug in the ML wherever needed, we can have more accuracy. We can have the model learn more and more as it moves forward, and gives us better results. Thank you.
Yeah, Ashish. Mr. Srinivas, yeah.
So as a partner, as a partner for the customers, providing the best of the solution is very important. It should be scalable, and it should deliver what is meant for the customer, because the analytics is going to deliver their business. So it's going to accelerate the business. So what we have done the current year is we work with NetApp and NVIDIA put together, because NVIDIA is one of the largest pioneer in the AI/ML innovations. So we work with them on the compute front, and the NetApp is already a data management company. So we integrated these two together as a converged systems. So the converged systems are available for any customers who are serious in building their business through AI and ML. So we are working with them closely to deliver value, to provide the infrastructure, stable and available infrastructure, which is scalable, scalable up to 20 petabytes of a single namespace, and handle 400 million files in a single go. These are all the big things required by any analytics software, analytics platform. So we are providing these sophistications to our customers as a partner for such OEMs. This is what we are doing from a partner perspective.
Sure, understood. Thanks. So, Mr. Vineet, yeah, can I have your comments on the innovation segment?
So I think I was listening to a lot of answers, and I agree with all of them. One thing about innovation is I always believe innovation comes out of the need rather than somebody working on the data as first thing, right? So what I've seen mostly is that based on the business needs, sometimes I'm a big believer, just if already somebody has invented the will, just copy paste it, right? Rather than trying to invent, because bringing the impact to the business is the most important thing here, right? So innovation is by chance in when we are using with the data, or rather not even chance, based on the need. Mostly I would prefer, if something has been done already, just copy paste and move things faster. On the automation side, I think what I believe is this data helps in creating a lot of closed loop systems, so that the need of human applying their mind goes away. If something can be closed loop, right? If I know this is a threshold, and after this threshold, the system should solve. So the data should be consumed and utilized on that side. On your question on AI/ML, I think lots of use cases, right? Regardless of whether it's in manufacturing, in supply chain, in sales and marketing, finance, everywhere, right? The consumption of data has hugely impacted us, right? We have been building models, how to increase our throughput in plants by looking at the data and using the data, building AI/ML models, or optimizing cost, or reducing defect, right? Using computer vision to identify the defect. So data in different forms are getting consumed, whether it's structured, unstructured, in different forms getting consumed and bringing impact on the manufacturing side. On the sales side, knowing more about our customers, how can we serve them faster, being able to respond to customers' query faster, being able to crowdsource a lot of, I think that's another big field which is opening up and having a lot of impact to a lot of businesses, right? Crowdsourcing the opportunities is another key thing on the sales and marketing side of it. On the supply chain side, I think this Corona, the pandemic impacted a lot of us, right? And the entire supply chain got disrupted. So it also created a mindset of how can we understand and get the transparency, right? Understand the lineage and the impact which it can bring. How can we quickly respond to? So I think there the data impact is very high and brings a lot of insights to us. And finance has always been using a lot of data. So I see the power of data combined with AI/ML and bringing the aspect of, you call it innovation, automation, is having huge impact in the industry, the way I see that is.
Thank you. Mr. Vinay, your comments, please.
Yeah, so I think most of my panelists have covered or shared their thoughts around automation innovation. And according to me, it's a continuous process, right? And pre-pandemic, there was people, definitely all our customers were talking about automation and innovation. But I think post-pandemic, this is only accelerated, right? As Mr. Vineet said, it's if during the need of the hour is when you actually tend to innovate and think about how do you keep your business running 24/7, right? And that's where I think automation and innovation is going to play a key role. And it is also going to help improve businesses, and it's also in helping economies across the world as well, right? Automation is playing a key role there. Now, if you see, robots were initially doing physical activities. Now they've also extended that to cognitive capabilities, such as making judgments, sensing emotions, etc. So this is going to be a continuous process, and it is going to evolve over a period of time. So we have some of large enterprises talking to us. Initially, last year, it was more of, when the pandemic hit, the work from home was more of a temporary phenomena. But when people realized it is, the productivity is better, businesses have not been impacted, they want to continue with this work from home culture. Like, for example, one of my customers said, initially to work from home, I had to take permission. And now if I have to work from office, I have to take permission, right? The pandemic has changed the scenario completely. So people are looking at how do I, continue with the hybrid work culture. So that's where I think automation innovation is going to play a key role. And I think we as partners to customers, we as Srinivasan mentioned that, we have a reference architecture with NVIDIA, which helps you provide that AI, AI pipeline which can drive that performance and functionality required. And I think that the problem we're trying to solve for the customer is to eliminate the complexity of building that AI ML infrastructure. And it comes with all the software features as a part of the AI control plane. And it also has all the integration with the best data science toolkits, which can help you drive achieve your results. So that's how I just want to conclude in the last time.
Absolutely, completely agree. Thank you so much for that. I think with this, I think we are slightly over short time, but I think we did manage well on the time. I think I'd just like to conclude the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your views. I think I learned a lot. I think the strategies and the use case were very, very good to hear from each one of you. Thank you for sharing and being so open and transparent in sharing your thoughts. Over to you, Shikha.
Thank you very much, Ankush. And yes, that sounds very humble of you. Thank you. I have to say a big thank you to the panel for really, touching those touch points on how we need to prioritize data and analytics for, such unpredictable business challenges. And I think, as Vinay mentioned, I think we would hope for times when we don't have to take those permissions to, be there at the office. So let's hope that we meet sooner than soon at the same time. So thank you, panel, for telling better stories with data and visualization at the same time. I would urge all of you to visit the IBM booth right now at the engagement zone and fill up the feedback forms there as well. Now, this is for my dearest audience members who are busy watching the sessions and also exploring the platform. And this time particularly, I would just urge everyone to just, hang around at the IBM booth. I'll be right back with the next interesting chat. Thank you.